Good morning, everyone. Moises Naim is my name. I'm the editor-in-chief of Foreign Policy magazine. Thank you very much for being with us today. We have the privilege of having a very interesting idea and two very interesting commentators on that idea. We have with us Senator Lugar, a very respected member of Congress. He's the longest-serving senator in Indiana's history and was recently named one of the country's 10 best senators by Time magazine. Congratulations, Senator. He has also had a long-standing concern about the politics of energy and the economics of energy and the consequences on energy policy on national security and other dimensions. So he has been thinking a long time about this and has also been the author of several interesting initiatives in Congress to deal with this issue. Thank you for being here. Tom Friedman is a very well-known columnist for the New York Times, the author of many books. All of them tend to be bestsellers, or all of them are bestsellers. A Pulitzer Prize winner of the National Magazine Award, and recently he wrote "The World is Flat." 57 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, and he recently released a paperback version. Hardback, expanded, updated, and improved, that we should all read again.
What did you say the title was?
The World is Flat. And but even more important than that, he is the author of a cover story in Foreign Policy magazine that titled "The First Law of Petropolitics." And around that, we're going to have a conversation today. So let's start with the basics. And so, Tom, what is the first law of petropolitics?
Well, first of all, Moises, thank you for convening this. It's great to be here with Senator Lugar, someone I so respect and admire, and has really been a thought leader in the Senate on this issue. This article came out of a lunch with Moises. About 2 months ago, we were having lunch, and I had this idea, and I took out a napkin, and I drew a graph on the back of a napkin. And the graph had two axes. One axis was the price of oil, dating from 1979 to the present. And the other axis was what I called the pace of freedom. And basically what I drew was roughly a diamond shape. And I basically argued that as the price of oil went down from 1979 to the mid-1990s, when it cratered at about $16 a barrel. We saw a market increase in what I would call the pace of freedom in what I would call petrol estates. And petrol estates, to me, have two key characteristics. They're either estates with weak institutions or authoritarian governments that are overwhelmingly dependent for their GDP on oil. And these are countries like Iran, Venezuela, Russia, Equatorial Guinea, Chad, Azerbaijan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. You can go basically down the list. Now, basically, what I argued, as I said, is the price of oil went down, the pace of freedom went up. With all due respect, for instance, to Ronald Reagan having brought down the Soviet Union, it's often forgotten that the day the Soviet Union collapsed, so did the price of oil. It was $17 that day. So what you basically see in these countries is when oil is $20 a barrel, Iran is calling for a dialogue of civilizations under President Khatami. Magazines and journals are opening Iran. Iran is opening itself up to trade and interaction with the world. Reformers are getting elected. When oil is $70 a barrel, the president of Iran is calling for the destruction of Israel. When oil is $20 a barrel, the president of Venezuela is a little pussycat. When oil is $70 a barrel, he's telling George Bush and Tony Blair and just about everybody else to go to hell. When oil was $20 to $30 a barrel, George Bush looked in Vladimir Putin's soul and saw a good man. When oil is $70 a barrel, you look in Vladimir Putin's soul and you'll see Gazprom. You'll see a bunch of other newspapers and independent institutions that the Russian president has swallowed. So it seemed just intuitively right to me that there was an inverse relationship between the price of oil and the pace of freedom. And so with Moises's help and his team, what we did was actually create a graph with the price of oil on one axis, and we used the Freedom House graphs of their freedom index and just overlaid it. And what you basically see is this relationship where as the price of oil goes down, the pace of freedom goes up in countries like Nigeria, Iran, and Russia. And as the price of oil goes up, the pace of freedom goes down, and the lines actually cross in all of these graphs. Now, just to sum up, we know in our history the motto of the American Revolution was no taxation without representation. And the motto of petrol estates is no representation without taxation. If I don't have to tax you, because all I have to do is drill an oil well, never drill my people, then I don't have to represent you. And there's a real logic to this. Obviously, these petrol estates, what happens is when they get this huge windfall, what happens is these regimes use it to buy off opponents, to insulate themselves from foreign pressures, to never have to construct a society where they have to maximize their openness to the world in order to extract the most energy, entrepreneurship, creativity, and intelligence from their people. They use this money so they can continue to rule by tapping an oil well and never tapping their people. And hence, I argue, the first law of petropolitics, as the pace of freedom declines, the price of oil goes up. As the price of oil goes down, the pace of freedom increases. Thank you.
What about the exceptions? I'm sure that in everybody's mind is countries, there are oil countries where this is not happening. Norway is the typical exception that comes to mind.
What I would say, Moises, is Norway is not a petrol estate. It's not a country with weak institutions or an authoritarian government. After all, the United States, we have a lot of oil here. If you discover oil after your country is already grounded in strong institutions, and certainly in our case anchored in a democratic government as Norway is, then it's not going to, that influx, that sudden influx of capital is not going to have that effect. And I believe, if you look at what's going on in these petrol estates today, we've seen, I think, a very dangerous trend, particularly in the Middle East, because what's going on in the Middle East are two basic trends. One is the biggest population explosions happening anywhere on the planet, from Morocco to the border of India. That's going on one track. And at the same time, you're getting this huge, massive influx of oil wealth, this great windfall. And basically what these regimes are doing is they're taking this oil windfall and feeding it to this population explosion. Feeding it to them in the form of state-owned jobs, government jobs, state-owned industries, protected industries, and buying off opponents. You're seeing a massive misallocation of wealth, I would argue. Now, what will happen over time, I'm convinced, because of the price of oil going up and what we're doing in this country and what people like the good folks in Indiana are doing around ethanol, is that the price of oil will eventually go down and the population explosion will increase. And at some point, as that spread reaches a tipping point, you're going to see the biggest social explosion anywhere on the planet from Morocco to the border of India.